Hi, welcome back. Another live stream today. Painting. Nice and sedate, nice and quiet, nice and easy. Going to continue painting my monster. Didn't get that far yesterday, but it doesn't matter. We're going to continue on and do a bit more. I am quite happy to answer questions and chat while we're doing this, so by all means, ask questions if you want to, because that's why I'm here. And I've got no material prepared or anything like that. I'm just going to sit down and quietly sort of chat with everybody while I paint. Okay, I'll do this. What's that? And then we'll pin it. And it's pinned. Okay, all right, don't need that. Let's just do some painting. Nice and easy. Hi, welcome to HowtoDandD. My name is Fred Weller, and today I'm going to do some painting. It's been a while. I've started doing a little bit more, and we're going to be painting the Behir. We put a bit of colour on it. We're on to stage 2, put in a few more colours, and hopefully sort of start giving it some definition and so forth. We'll see how far we go. As everything with monsters, it doesn't usually get that far. I would love it for it to look like that, but it probably won't. This is sort of what I'm working on. That's the idea, is try to kind of duplicate that to a certain degree. But I'm not going to hold my breath for those of you who are thinking that I'll be able to do it exactly that way. My eyes are getting old, so this is what we've got for today. I'll work my way through here. Hi, Scott. How's it going? All right. So yesterday, or the last time we were painting, I used this Underdark Indigo as my sort of my base color. And today I'm going to move on from that, because I did notice there were a lot of areas that showed up the primer. So I'm going to start underneath, because I think that worked out pretty well. We're going to sort of let that sit right about there. And instead I'm going to use this Ethereal blue and try to coat some of the areas that I missed. They should stand out a little bit easier now. Now that I've missed those bits, I should be able to get at them. So I'm going to kind of attack it with that. But before I do that, I thought I would do the inside of the mouth. I was kind of just hard to sort of decide what I was going to do with the mouth, but I think ultimately in the end, I'm going to go with painting it white. I was actually going to do it black, but I think I'm going to go white. Why is that? I don't know, honestly. I just feel like whatever color I'm going to put on there is probably going to be a red. And red usually doesn't show up very well, and if you put black on first, it's even worse. So I'm going to use a little bit of white. This is Vallejo White, for those of you who are wondering what it is. If I can get the lid off, it's been a little while. Yep, there we go. We don't need much. Now this paint, I've found the Vallejo sometimes does need watering down. The other ones that I've been using don't usually need to. But we'll see how we go. I don't know what it's been like. I gave it a good shake beforehand, if you were wondering what's been going on. Yes, I did actually give it it's pretty thin. I think we'll be all right. And I'm going to use just like a standard Citadel brush to get in there. And get in the white. So today, I believe that Frymanes, Eric, over on his channel, is doing a discussion of, and sort of show and tell of it's a live stream basically, of the new book, the new adventure book, the Witchlight book. So I can imagine there's going to be a lot of people over there. It's going to be very quiet here today with me, I suspect. And I'm not really going to worry too much about getting it in there exactly. It just needs to be in roughly the right place. Because we're going to go over a lot of this anyway later, so it doesn't matter, does it really? Ultimately, we're going to go over with a different colour. So I did post up my first Dungeon Master Roundtable discussion, for those of you who are wondering, how that was how's that going? Well, yes, I did. I put up the first one. It is actually not a full-blown Q&A. It is a outtakes. It's when you get AJ Pickett and Dungeon Dad in particular in the same room, it is hard for them to stay on topic, particularly Josiah. I mean, I talk a lot, but call blimey. So that video I put up is actually just the outtakes. It's not actually a full-blown Q&A that we would normally do. And I was thinking maybe the thumbnail was a little bit too busy, but I'll make up a second one just in case. I started making it last night and then I was like, I ran out of time. It's like, oh gosh, there are a lot of elements to this. Okay, if I got most of the white where I need it to be. Okay, we'll do a little bit more on there. Just on the teeth. Make it easier later on, and I'll just chuck a bit white in there as well. So yeah, if you've got your own painting stuff you want to be doing or get done, I suppose this is a good time to do it. I would imagine like today is like the worst day. If anything, I imagine everybody's going to be over watching Eric's live stream of the new book, since he's got it early. Dear. I do have another Dungeon Master roundtable discussion tomorrow, actually, as it happens. And I think what I will do is I won't do my normal live stream. So I won't be painting tomorrow because I just don't want to overtax myself. My voice is getting better, but it's not perfect. So I probably won't be around to paint tomorrow. But what I will do is I will continue to work on all the stuff I have been working on so that it's ready to go. Certainly I need to do some more on Sadie Rogers' stuff and get it done and dusted so it's out there for people to use. Particularly that character sheet. Oh, watch it. Can I get it in? Yeah, okay, did it. Whew. Trying to aim the brush in there. Okay, all right, so I've done the white there. We'll come back to that. I'll deal with that with a different color later. And so I'm going to turn it upside down. I'm going to do the underneath, and we're going to tackle it with this ethereal blue. I think that's the right idea. And hopefully that'll stay put. Turn that round. Hi Brian, how's it going, Brian? Are you painting today, or are you just come to hang out and say hi? Either of which, of course, is fine. Now, I'm going to say right now, usually, even when I shake these things, I'm using the Nolzur's Marvelous Pigments Monsters paint set with the 36 paints in it. And I've found these are actually just army painter paints. Okay? And they actually have on the side what paint it is. I could not read it off to you because it's so small right now, but they do have the actual paint color on here. But I found that whatever they put in them, they just don't require watering down. Every time I've watered them down, it's been a disaster. So I'm just going to grab a brush and get it a little bit wet, and then I'll just start putting things on. So yeah. So what are you up to, Brian? Doing anything in particular? What about you, Peter? Have you got something in mind? It's quite thick, that. I keep falling for this. It looks thick. I put it on. It goes too thin. Okay. All right. So every time I do this, it's a mistake. Tiny bit of water, and we'll add it in and see what happens. I do feel like it's a mistake. I did this last time, had to come back to it, had to wait until it started to set a little bit. What was I working on last night? I was working on Old Owl Well. I haven't actually done a video. See, it's just too much. It's all watery. Okay. Yeah. I don't think that's going to work. And again, proven again that even though I thought, okay, it'll be all right, it's just not going to work. So I'm going to just get rid of that. Yeah, so Old Alwell from The Lost Mine of Phandelver. I was just looking at that and trying to break it down in my head. It's been a while since I've run it. I do remember there being some problems with it. And, you know, I have to say that there are times where I feel like when an adventure stipulates how much XP or experience points you get, if it's not using milestones, when they state that you get more experience points for killing something than for dealing with a situation a different way, the ultimate end result is the players are going to probably kill those things, particularly if they suddenly discover that you are awarding experience points and they feel like the experience points they get awarded for that particular situation is pathetic. So they just go back and butcher whatever they were fighting or discussing or talking with. And this is actually exactly what happened with Old Alwell. It is one of those times where they've done that very thing, where you award, I think it's like 200 experience points, but 800 experience points for killing all the zombies and the wizard. Okay, I won't say anything more. I won't give away a lot of spoilers for those of you who are kind of worried about that sort of thing. But yeah, if you do that sort of thing, it is only, you would assume that players would not figure it out, but players do figure it out. And it does cause problems, I find. Because then they're like, okay, well, that wasn't very helpful. Let's just go back and destroy it utterly. I mean, to be fair, I think there are probably situations where, just killing the monsters is probably the best option and probably the only sensible option. But this encounter is not set up that way. It's actually set up in such a way that potentially the player characters don't need to do that. There is another way of dealing with it. I won't talk too much about it, but there is another way of dealing with it that isn't really spelled out a lot, but I think it would have been useful. Now, you're probably wondering why I'm going over this whole thing with just this color, because I know I'm going to miss spots, and the other color that I put on is going to help sort of tie it all together. That's my plan. Okay, it's not. I'm not just putting the paint on and just repainting the whole thing a different color. Although it might look like that way. My eyes aren't that good, so I won't hit. So I'm aiming for all of the little white patches, all the bits that I'm pretty sure I missed. Does that make sense? Rather than all of the bigger areas. And of course, I'll have to come back to the area that I completely ballsed up by thinning down the paint too much. And I will. Don't you worry. I will. I'll sort it out. So yeah, if you have any questions, feel free to ask them. I'm happy to do so. I'm halfway through my holiday, and I have to say, I have gone for a walk just about every day, and I feel a lot better. I don't feel like I'm sort of, a giant paperweight. I'm feeling quite a lot better. So we're going to keep doing that. That's helping a lot. And I've enjoyed it. I've been hanging out with my niece. Oh, hi, dancers. It's been a while. Well, I have been sick, but I'm getting better. I'm on the mend. That's the main thing, right? On the mend. Okay, so I need to be able to get at this area here, because I know I balls things up pretty nicely last time in terms of covering the painted areas there. So let's get into the neck. And look, there are some seam lines that are kind of a little bit on the horrible side, but I looked at them and I had to make a decision about whether it was actually worth attacking them or whether I was going to lose too much detail. And in the end I decided I'm going to leave them, which is unusual for me. I do usually take off mold lines, maybe not every single one of them, but to a large degree, and I usually do. Hello, how's it going, Epic Donut? All right, I'll move this forward a little bit so it's kind of a bit closer to the camera. That might help, eh? Hey Fred, yeah, no, I have been. It has been good, and it is going to be very interesting going back to work. I I think I'm going to wind up with some sort of complete change to my roster, which is frankly not really unexpected. I kind of expected something like that to happen. I'm not happy about it, but it's going to happen. But yeah, and I'm getting closer to paying off my mortgage. And if I pay off my mortgage in the time frame that I've planned, then you will probably see me doing a lot of this sort of thing. You'll be trying to get rid of me. Dancers. Just recovering from the flu. Yeah, I've had some. I think what I've had is a combination of some kind of flu, stomach bug, all combined at the same time, and it's hit me. I've been trying to deal with it since July. Other people have had it well before me, and I was able to hold it off well, for ages. And then for whatever reason, it always seems to work this way for me. I don't know why. For whatever reason, when I get it, it just pounds me. Like, I've managed to hold it off for so long, and then, but instead of lasting a couple of days, it just takes me down, which is a real drag, I have to say. What brand of paints am I using today? Well, I'm actually using the Nolzur's Marvelous Pigments Monsters paint set. It's all down in the description. I made sure to put everything that I was going to use today down there. Okay, so I'm using Ethereal Blue, which is actually just this blue is actually an army painter paint. I don't know which one it is, but that's what it is. And I've also been using Vallejo White. But yeah, if you look in the description, you'll see all the colours that are there. Because I know you guys want to know that information. That's fine. All right. Around the cracks and the areas that I want it to go. Now, so you will notice that I am totally dependent on my light source because I'm not using any natural light. I can't because the sun shines down because it's like the zenith of the day. It's noon, right, for me. So as a result, if I don't, the sun comes through the window, it hits this exact location, and I can't see anything, and neither would you. So as a result of that, I have to put up a towel to stop the light coming through. One, so I can see what's going on, and so that you can also have some idea of what's going on as well. There we go. That's helping. And I'm going to do that again. Nice and thin. I have to say that the paints do cover pretty well. As long as I don't thin them down, they do actually cover pretty well. And I don't feel like they're taking away the detail. I mean, the reality is every time you put paint on, right, it's taking some detail off. I mean, you can't get away from that fact. That's always the case. It doesn't matter how thin you put it on, there is going to be some detail lost by putting paint onto a miniature. Okay, and then we'll flip that over. My biggest problem is going to definitely be those legs and those little feet and all those little claws. Oh, caught it. You're probably wondering what the cloth is all about. The cloth is actually wet, so that if I need something that's wet but not water, I can work with it. I haven't had to use it very often, but occasionally I do. My favourite paints are the Pro Acrylic. I don't think you guys can get them down in New Zealand. No, probably not. My brother uses a lot of paints that can go into his powered airbrush. and I know that he buys in bulk. And the paints he tends to use, he used to buy Vallejo in bulk. I don't know what else he uses nowadays. He's painting a lot of cars. And because he's painting a lot of cars, the finish has to be pretty good. It's got to have a very sort of shiny surface to it. So he obviously put something over the top of it to give it that effect. Although I know he doesn't like shine on miniatures. Which is kind of funny because, you know, when you wash your car, right, the idea is that you're trying to get a shine to it. But he doesn't like a shine on a car. So it's still got to have a good strong surface. But it's not necessarily going to be shiny. But I know he has to have his paints of a particular type. They have to be thin enough to go through the air gun so that they don't clog it all up. It's not something that I normally do, primarily because I don't know how to use an air gun and I don't have one. It would also be absolutely stupid to do it on a live stream because you wouldn't be able to hear diddly squat. Yeah, and right now in New Zealand we wouldn't be able to get nana. Look, I have no idea when it's finally available to actually purchase how long it'll take me to get the new book. So I can actually sort of look at it, discuss it, and I will. You know I will. I've made my mistake of not doing book reviews. I will not let it fall behind. I'll make sure that I flip through the book, and then record that and do a voiceover, and I'll do a live stream so that all that information's there, so I don't have to wind up doing like months and months of book reviews. Which is what has happened to me recently. Airbrushing is a lot of fun, and you can learn basically. Yeah, I'm sure you can. My eyes are not that great, so I just don't have time. You know, my brother is unemployed, so you know it's a little bit different. And to be fair, I think painting miniatures. Cars right now is his thing, but painting miniatures he's been doing. What did he do last time? I think it was Iron Man. He painted an Iron Man miniature, and the Mandalorian. Somebody made a Mandalorian miniature. That's right, my other brother. He's got himself a 3D printer, and it's been going bananas. I think he 3D printed a car that my niece is loving. She loves jumping into that thing. But apparently it's his. It's his baby. It's really funny. Ah, dear. Okay, I mean, to be fair, I am playing with little miniatures too, so I'm sure my hobbies are amusing as well. But yeah, when I heard that, it was hilarious. I honestly could not believe it. What's that epic donut question? Do you think these new books will be good? I think Fizzbands might be fun, and I hope Witchlight is interesting. I don't know. My feeling is that Wizards of the Coast, every time they put out a new adventure book, they seem to do something better than they did before. But what they also do is they fail to make an index. There's no index, and often even the adventure books really need to have one, and they don't put them in there. It really is frustrating. I can't tell you how annoying it is, and I imagine that other people, I need a drink of water, that anybody else who likes the idea of running some of these adventures without using like third-party material, which, you know, that's cool. They need to have enough stuff that they can find quickly and easily, and indexes, that's what they are there for. And they just don't do that. And it's so annoying. It is really, really annoying, and they keep doing it. So I don't know. But I will assure you that I will tell you what I think about it when I get it, which is probably going to be a while away, because New Zealand is in a lockdown. The world is dealing with other things, as you all probably know, and we are not out of the woods anytime soon. So by the time by the time everybody's vaccinated, the thing will have mutated again. So yeah, but I will get the book. I'll talk about it. Right now, I believe Eric is doing a live stream, and Eric over at Fry Minis is going to cover pretty much as he can. He'll be making videos till he goes blue. Poor bugger. But it'll be good for his channel. It'll certainly drive a lot of traffic to him, which is what he's been wanting to have happen. I mean, to be fair, it is difficult to have a channel and do well with miniatures because there's so few people actually using miniatures right now. There's a good thing this brush is like old and shoddy, because look at the mess I've made of it. Look at the terrible mess I've made of it. But I feel like the miniature is pretty much covered, and I'm going to wash that out. I like the idea of a carnival. For those of you who are wondering, you know, what's the deal? But I really like the idea of there being a carnival involved. And if they do that, I think that alone is good enough to warrant checking it out. One of the most fun times I've ever had is when my party played through an adventure in a circus where it was a sort of murder mystery. And they loved it so much that they wanted to join the circus. So that's what we wound up doing. We played through the Isle of Dread, and they collected monsters. They collected animals, took them back to the zoo and at the circus. They were animal wranglers, and they really enjoyed that. That was so much fun for them. So yeah. Okay, so now I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to put something in the mouth while I wait for the rest of it to dry, because it is going to need to dry. Hopefully it will dry fairly quickly. And I'm thinking a colour... The problem with pinks, one of the things I've discovered with pinks is they don't work very well. Well, at least the pinks in this set. So I'm going to go with a red. So this is Cambion Crimson. I think that's what... So I'm going to go with that inside the mouth with a smallish brush, but not that small, not a really fine one. I'll give it a good shake. Make sure it's all moving around. So I think we will certainly be able to move on to putting on at least a couple more coats or colours for highlighting today. I think that's definitely going to happen. And my plan is, I think we're going to go next with the frost blue, and then I'm going to follow up with the ghostly blue, just to help pick out things. I've got a dry brush here. Okay, so let's see if that is going to work. There we are. That should be enough for now. I am not adding anything to it. I didn't put down the red. I wasn't actually expecting I was going to use it today, frankly. But yeah, I will make sure to add it later on so that you know that's the colour I used. But like I said, they're Army Painter paints essentially. They're just rebranded and renamed. Okay. So what do we got here? You see, this is what I don't like about red. Is the problem with red, and as you all probably know already, red is one of those colours where you have to do it multiple times to get anywhere. So, and I don't honestly think that I'm going to use the red that much. I'm probably going to put something else over the top of that. And then inside the mouth. Now, right in the gullet. Right smack in the middle. I'll redo the teeth later. I'm not really too worried about it right now. Gosh, I'd forgotten just how angle is always a problem. Light, eyes, hand movements, and just angle. For those of you who are wondering why it's not on the base, there's a good reason. You can't paint the thing if you put it on the base. That's what I was talking about that yesterday in the first live stream. It's like, don't stick this thing on a base because you'll never get it done. You'll never be able to reach everything. Okay, where are we? So is everybody doing a lot more painting given what's been going on, or are they doing less painting? I'm kind of curious. Hello, Joe. Thank you, Joe. It's certainly looking a lot better than it was yesterday. That's because it's just got more paint on it. My skills have never been that great, as you know. You're painting right now? Ah, what are you painting, Joe? It's probably something far more impressive than what I am doing. I've seen your stuff. I know how good it is. I might not watch every video or the entire thing, but I certainly have been watching some of them. Where are we? Jeez, just that little bit there. It's always right. 4K Orcs. 40K Orcs. Wow, it's been a long... I haven't played 40K in a long time. I probably won't ever go back. As you know, I have a Necron army. I made myself some Arnold Schwarzeneggers. And I made the fatal mistake of trying to show them to people on a Dungeons and Dragons channel. That wasn't a smart move, I discovered. But yeah. All right. But I really used to enjoy playing that. The only problem is I found I never had any friends. I just had competitors, people who wanted to compete. Yeah. And Necron started off being really good, and then after all, they did some adjustments, and then the only thing that was any good was frankly the Space Marines. That's it. Space Marines were it. They were the strongest. They were the best. You were foolish to have anything else. I think the only time I saw something happen that was slightly different to that was a Elder army with a lot of tanks. It used to cause a lot of trouble. GW, yeah, Games Workshop, love their poster boys. Yeah. I do feel like the problem is that every time they make some adjustments to that game, they just wind up hamstringing somebody else. This is a game where kind of things like balance are things that people want because it's supposed to be a competitive game, but they never do that. Okay, so what have we got here? I'm going to put that there, lean that there, see if that works. All right, cool. Now, where's the brush I was using before? I am really unsure about doing this. Okay, so let's do a test run. I can fix it up later if I need to. So it's frost blue. Let's turn it and try that. I'll do it underneath and see what it looks like first before I go too far. It has been so long since I have done any painting. Right. Dry brush is dry. I need a paper towel that is dry as well. Okay. Okay. All right, let's see if we can just... Okay. Oh. There's always that moment where you're like, oh, there was a little bit more paint on one side of the brush than the other. What's that, dancers? I try to get my paint on my brush every single day. Okay, get a little bit done every day. Yeah, I run a YouTube channel, so I struggle just to keep up with the workload for that and do my full-time job. So I can't get to it. I'm doing it, and the reason I'm doing it today is this is my holiday, so I figure, well, what are the things I used to like doing that used to help me relax? Well, I've been doing a lot of reading, but I've also been doing a lot of walking, and I always used to like painting, so I thought, well, I'll paint. Now I could paint alone or I could paint with somebody else. So I thought, well, I'll paint with somebody else. And since Joe was adamant that I would never do any more painting streams and leave them public, I had to prove him wrong. Although it could be a long time before you see another one. When I have got more leave and can go on leave and not be asked to come back to work, you'll see more of them. Unless, of course, I run out of miniatures. That isn't likely to happen, though. Give yourself some... What? Give yourself some me time. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, exactly. Look, I have to say, I've been having a lot of fun hanging out with my niece, who's 2 years old. So she goes running, and she likes walking as well. She is a little bossy. She's a bossy little thing, but she's funny as. Gets me out of the house, which is nice. Okay, right, so that's not too bad. I kind of feel like the underneath came out all right. So let's just brush over. Move that. Flick it over, move that out of the way, don't need that right now, and then see how much of this paint will actually come off from the brush. Yeah, for those of you who are thinking I'm going to do speed painting or I'm going to get anything done really, really fast, I can assure you that is not going to happen. Okay, alright, so I will need some more paint. That's fine. Grab that. Now, we'll flick it back over again. I'll work on the underneath and then come back to the top surface. Alright, so paint. Okay, that's right. Let's get the tail sorted. Get the underneath these legs. Okay. Down the sides here. I know you can't see where I'm putting the paint because it's easier. It's easier if I look at the area I'm working with rather than point the camera at it. Just a bit too difficult otherwise. But I will turn it around so you can see what's happened. Now, I've decided that I'm going to do another questions and answers, and I really liked Dungeon Classes Fun with Monsters, and I believe somebody was it you, Joe, or somebody else was talking about, am I going to talk about fun ways of using monsters? I've kind of come down to the decision that I'm going to probably use the Behir as one. I need 4 monsters. I've selected the Mind Flayer because I have something bat crazy I want to talk about with the Behir. I'll get Wally and Dawn from Roll for Initiative involved, and I should have also Denny from Dicely D&D to add their 2 cents. So we'll talk about how to make monsters more interesting in your game, or ways that you could use them that are a little bit outside the circle, square, octagon. Okay, all right, so I'm going to need more. So I need 2 more monsters. So if I'm going to use Behir and the Mind Flayer, I need 2 more monsters to discuss. So you guys could, by all means, if you can think of a monster you think would be interesting to discuss, throw it out there and we'll see if I bite. Wally DM was actually talking to me. He sent me a message and he was saying, like, what are we talking about in a week's time? So I think he's ready to get him. He's been away for like a month from the Dungeon Master Roundtable, so he's itching to come back. He knows he's coming back. He knows he's doing hosting some questions, so he's trying to get his own stuff sorted out. But we had so much fun. It was we laughed so hard making those things. That I can assure you that we are going to enjoy doing that, even if they don't do very well. Yeah, I think that will. I think it will help people, because sometimes it's very hard to sort of figure out how to integrate your monster into your campaign in a way that isn't just sort of the same old thing that everybody does. And we came up with some like bat crazy silly stuff. I'd admit. Okay, not everything was like child friendly or PG-13 or even PG. Some of it was well and truly out there. But we had a lot of fun doing it, and these things aren't necessarily designed just for an audience. They are designed for us to kind of get together and hang out together. We just happen to shoot them and record them so that people can watch them. And sometimes we'll talk about something that people like, and sometimes we won't. So yeah, if you can think of some monsters that would be very interesting to discuss, things we can't cover because it's already been done by Dungeon Class, and that is the Gelatinous Cube. We can't do that one. Can't do the Beholder. Hooked Horror we did. Northic is done. We did the Bullywog. What else was there? There was one more. One more. On the tip of my tongue. I can't remember. Maybe I'll remember. Give me a bit of time. I'll think about it. Alright. Okay, so I'm going to try to apply a little bit more paint to the top area. This colour. Okay. White Rhino. The Flumph. Yeah, okay, yeah. I think the problem is a lot of people really don't consider the Flumph a monster that you would fight, so they just leave it out. But I think it doesn't have to be a fight. I mean, a lot of the things that I presented in those weren't necessarily about fighting the monster. When we were talking about the monsters that Dungeon Dad, Josiah, wanted to discuss, his were very unusual monsters, and so we came up with very unusual ways of applying them. The Flumph. I'm pretty sure that Wally loves the Flumph. And I actually just did a little short video on the Flumph, didn't I? Did a little bit of study. Interesting. Watching Mr. Rex and AJ Pickett discuss them, and then another bunch of people that aren't really, I think is it Dungeon Cast or something like that. I haven't watched that much of their stuff. They were talking about the Flumph as well. So yeah, could be very, very fun. So absolutely, I'll put that down as a possibility. I like the fact you've picked a monster that really doesn't necessarily have like a combat focus to it. I think it is actually more fun when they don't have a combat focus and they got something else. Because combat's easy, you know. The monster shows up, but if they decide to kill it, they kill it. Yeah. But if you want to do something with it that's interesting, that's memorable, then you've got to think outside of the idea of, okay, it's doing something that is going to get them killed by the adventurers. Or the murder hobos, in some cases, right? Okay. All right, so I feel like most of that looks all right. We're getting a couple of different colours going on there now, which is kind of, this is usually how I like to sort of have a couple of different colours going on, so there's not just one thing going on. All right, so we're going to do a bit more. The top section is where I want to focus next. Oh, look. You could look at it, doesn't have a poop hole. Alright, so Flumph, you got another monster for me, people? Something else that I could discuss? I'm sure you're all very busy painting and don't have time to be typing into the chat. Okay. Let's get that on. There we go. I think that's got that one. I think we're ready. So I know somebody's going to probably ask me, am I going to wash the miniature? Yeah, I probably will wash the miniature. Obviously not in the washing machine, as I said before. But yeah, with a wash, a paint wash. Go back to orcs. Now, orcs are the sorts of things that people just want to kill. So that's an interesting one to discuss. I absolutely agree. That's definitely an interesting one to discuss, because most people who are playing Dungeons and Dragons, their first go-to with an orc is let's just kill it. So I will put orcs down as a tentative possibility. I haven't got any hugely interesting ideas of what I would do with an orc. I kind of feel like orcs can go anywhere and do anything, but that's because that's my view of what a half orc does. So my view of an orc would be very much the same. But I'll keep a note of that one, dancers. But I do like the idea of the flump. I think that's a good idea. Now, let's get that in there. Get the paint on, off the brush, onto it. Right, a little bit more. Okay. I think that is it. I think that's all we really need to do with this colour. I think we can move on to another stage. Okay, alright, I'll get rid of that. Oh, what do you got here, dancers? My players just got surrounded by an army of orcs at the end of last session. Really? Well, that'll go well, won't it? That'll go really well. They do not want to be surrounded by orcs. What do you got here, Joe? Okay. Right. Well, I don't know about a video on or a question regarding how to describe the smell of a monster, or how they sound. I suppose we could do that. I feel like there would be a problem in that a few of us might try to might take the piss out of sounds and smells descriptions for monsters, which might be entertaining in itself. Yeah. So yes, I have been toying with the concept of a mind flayer who's a brain surgeon or a doctor or a dentist or something like that. So when I say fun and interesting ways to use your monsters, that is kind of the sort of thing that would crop up into my mind. There's probably much worse things that will come to mind as well. Your orcs have a magical skulls. Okay, leech or corrupt poison into the land. Stopping food growing. They activate when it gets wet. Oh, okay. And they demand tribute. Of course, everything does demand tribute, don't they? Okay, so we're going to let that brush dry, because it's not going to be much good for dry brushing if it's not actually dry. So I'll stick it right about there. We'll ditch this, and we're going to deal with the inside of the mouth a little bit, because I want to do a bit more with that. And I'm not using that red that I used before. I want to go to a different colour. Red, remember, leave it out. I've got to write it down in the description later on. So, what are we using in its mouth? That is the question. What did I have in terms of a picture? What did I have? What did the picture actually show me? That's no good to me. That's no good to me. I don't know. Really? That's not really what I had in mind. It all feels like all one colour in this inside the mouth. That's not what I'm after. I'm after something slightly different than that. So that's not going to work for me. Thank you very much. So we will forget about that. We are going to definitely go with something else that is more flesh coloured. No, that ain't going to happen. What else is there? Fair skin. That makes no sense. We will use this one. I'm going to use this zombie flesh colour. I feel like that's a better use of my time. Let's go with the zombie flesh colour. Inside the mouth. Yep, that's the one. Picking that. I need to find all the skulls. Rainfall and thunder. Ooh. Okay, alright, so let me turn this around a little bit. Give this a good shake. Because that's what you're supposed to do, is give them a good hard shake before using them. Okay, go. So, for those of you who are wondering when I am going to be back painting, it probably won't be tomorrow because I've got that Dungeon Master round table discussion. What I will do is I'll come back the day after. So not Friday New Zealand time, but it'll be like Saturday. I think Saturday's good enough. Saturday is the day. Come back, have another discussion, have another bit of a paint, get a bit further. All right, let's see if this is actually going to work. I'm kind of happy with its thinness. It doesn't look like it needs to be attached. Yet again, another example of these paints that seem to never need to be thinned down, which is great, but cool, it kind of shocks you sometimes. Yep, that's better. Now, can I actually see what I'm doing? God, it's going to get very quiet now as I try to figure out how to get at it. Yeah. Getting at it, slowly but surely. And I don't think it matters if it goes in the teeth, because I'm going to paint over the teeth later on anyway. And then on the other side, let's fix that up later. Wa-la-la-da-da-dee. Now, I had a discussion with somebody who was talking about characters being invisible and monsters being invisible. And I'm not talking about the standard invisibility spell. I'm not talking about that second level spell. I'm talking about greater invisibility and monsters that have invisibility that doesn't disappear when they cast a spell or make an attack. That's actually quite a difficult situation to deal with. So I had promised that I would talk about how players can manage that, because I think a lot of players, particularly modern players, don't understand just in how important it is to be able to find out how to detect invisible creatures. And it's not as easy as just making a perception check, because that doesn't help you. The only thing you can do with a perception check with an invisible creature is figure out where it might be making noise. And that's only if the area's nice and quiet. And in the middle of a battle, it is not quiet. So finding an invisible creature that is attacking you, in particular, that's the biggest problem, is actually really, really hard. Now, in older versions of the game, we understood just how dangerous those kinds of creatures and spell users were. So we always made sure we had the spell See Invisibility. But one of the things I've noticed is modern players don't seem to do that. Instead, they want to beat up on the Dungeon Master, saying, "The Dungeon Master, you're doing things wrong, you're making things too hard. Why is it so difficult to actually find invisible creatures?" Do you know why it's so hard to find invisible creatures? And I'm sure most of you already know this. It's because that is the wild card, that is the trump card. Flying and invisibility combined is even worse. But invisible and not being able to actually see somebody means disadvantage, even if you know their exact location. So I'm very much toying with the idea of doing a video that will sort of talk a little bit about the stuff that Dungeon Masters have to contend with invisibility, but with a focus on trying to, I guess, educate players into understanding the different ways of finding an invisible creature and what their likelihood of success is. Because there are different ways of finding invisible creatures, but they're not guaranteed. They are imperfect. See Invisibility, the spell, is really the only definitive way to be successful in finding them. Yes, dancers, you make a good point. Things like putting mud on the ground is fine, but if the invisible creature can see that you've put mud on the ground, they just don't stand there. So you've got to do all of that as preparation well before you're dealing with an invisible creature. Of course, you won't be able to do that. More than likely, when you come across an invisible creature, it'll be too late. You just won't have a chance to do very much at all. So, yes. And I thought that would be a good topic to discuss. And I will certainly bring it up, talk about the different ways that we used to use. Throwing sand, throwing flour, these are all techniques that we used in the past. Tying a rock to a rope and swinging it above your head is fine. Yeah, pocket sand, stuff like that, absolutely. But they're still not as good as having See Invisibility. Because if the Dungeon Masters, monsters or NPCs or creatures are smart enough to see what the players are doing, they will avoid them like the plague, so that they can't do diddly squat. So I thought a more player-focused video on how to deal with invisible creatures might be useful. It's weird. I started off with really simple stuff, and over time we wind up getting to a point where I start talking about more and more complicated topics. It seems to be the way things are. I'm about to lose my voice. And I think this is probably a good point to stop, because I don't think my dry brush is dry enough yet. No, it's not. And I've kind of got enough paint on there to begin with. I've been painting for an hour. I feel quite happy to come back some other time. Yeah. Thanks, Joe. I think it is the right idea. I think it is a good idea to give it a go. Do it that way. So that's what I'll do. So wherever you are in the world, thank you for hanging out with me. whether it be the morning, the night, the afternoon, the wee early morning. Please look after yourself, your family and your friends. Be nice to your neighbours. Please be nice to your neighbours. And hey, till next time, keep rolling those 20s.